Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the competition Q&A webinar, How to Build a Winning Team for ULI Hines Student Competition Asia Pacific 2026, Fireside Chat with Jury Chair. My name is Rose Hung, Director of Programs and Thought Leadership at ULI Asia Pacific, and I'm delighted to be your host today. The ULI Hines Student Competition Asia Pacific is a major design and development challenge that brings together multidisciplinary teams to envision bold, sustainable, and financially viable solutions for a real urban site. We are thrilled to be joined today by our 2026 competition jury chair, Peter Hyland, an internationally experienced advisor in business strategy, urban planning, development, and urban economics. He has also been a long-time jury chair for this competition. We are excited to have him with us today to share his extensive experience and insights from behind the scenes. Today's program will walk us through the competition's legacy and a quick overview of how it works. Then we'll move into a fireside chat with Peter to explore how to build strong cross-disciplinary teams, what juries look for, and how students can approach complex urban challenges with creativity and rigor. So when it's time for your questions, just type them into the Q&A box. I will make sure to pass them on to our chair. So for next, so for anyone new to ULI, we are the world's largest and oldest global real estate association, founded in 1936. Our mission is to shape the future of the built environment for transformative impact in communities worldwide. Across Asia Pacific and around the globe, our members work together to drive better cities, better development, and better outcomes for people. Next. Here's in Asia Pacific, ULI brings together a 3,000 strong network across Australia, as well as China, Hong Kong, India, Japan, and Philippines, Singapore, and South Korea. It's a truly regional community working across borders to advance better cities and better built environment. Next. Our members in Asia Pacific span the full spectrum of the built environment. Developers, investors, planners, architects, public sectors, leaders, academics, and emerging professionals. It's a truly multidisciplinary and cross-market community that brings a wide range of perspective to every conversation. Next. The ULI Hines competition, founded by Jury Hines, has a 24 years legacy of engaging young talents in multidisciplinary urban solutions, with nearly 3,000 teams participating to date. Our Asia Pacific edition proudly continues this tradition. While the US competition entered its 24th year, we are heading into our 4th year in 2026. Next. Since 2023, more than 400 students from 33 universities across Asia Pacific, including Australia, China, India, and others, have taken part in the ULI Hines Student Competition Asia Pacific. Together, they are helping shape the future of our city through bold, multidisciplinary ideas. Next. The 2026 ULI Hines Student Competition Asia Pacific invites you to step into the role of a master developer. It's a chance to compete, collaborate, and create real impact. By joining, you will represent your university and country in a high-profile regional competition. Apply your learning to a real-world brief shaped by industry experts and work closely with mentors and peers across the region. You will also gain visibility within ULI's global network of more than 46,000 leaders shaping the future of cities and stand out as part of an international community driving positive change. Next. Here in Asia Pacific, the ULI Hines Student Competition invites graduate and final year undergrad students to form multidisciplinary teams and tackle a real-world urban challenge. The journey unfolds in 4 key stages, as you can see right here. First, student forms teams of 3 to 5 members from at least 2 different disciplines, with enrollments verified by their university. Once teams are confirmed, the competition brief is released. Then, over just 3 weeks, teams develop a comprehensive proposal for a real site in a major Asia Pacific city, grounded in site analysis, responsible design, and a feasible financial plan. So in week 5, up to 3 teams are shortlisted as finalists and invited to present their proposal in a virtual forum. All finalists will be announced at the ULI Asia Pacific Summit in May 2026. And for the winning team, there's an extra highlight, a fully fun trip to the summit where you will present your scheme and join an exclusive networking breakfast with senior leaders from Hines and across the industry. Next. The competition asks teams to step into the role of a master developer, as I mentioned previously, creating a concept proposal that balances financial feasibility with social, community, and environmental value. Basically, it's your chance to think big and be truly visionary without worrying about real loans, budget, or real deadlines, well, except ours in the competition. It's an idea exercise grounded in real-world conditions, but not intended for actual development or tender. So entrants are challenged to deliver solutions that, number 1, show alignment and vision by addressing the competition objectives through responsible, sustainable, forward-looking land use. Number 2, demonstrate feasibility with realistic market assumptions and sound financial analysis. Number 3, respond to context with high-quality design that reflects local, urban, cultural, and environmental conditions. Number 4, bring innovation through bold ideas that address complex urban challenges. Number 5, show collaboration by integrating planning, architecture, finance, policy, and more through strong multidisciplinary teamwork. Number 6, consider practicality by addressing development risk, phrasing, and long-term viability. So each year's exercise is designed to give students hands-on experience, encouraging creative problem-solving grounded in real urban and market conditions. Next. So before we begin on our Fireside Chat, I want to take a moment to celebrate our 2025 ULI Hines Student Competition Asia Pacific finalists and winners. Alchemist from the Chulalongkorn University in Thailand, Urban Alchemist from the University of Melbourne in Australia, Zoning Out Crew from SAP University in India. These teams deliver outstanding, imaginative, and deeply thoughtful proposals that truly embody the spirit of responsible land use. If you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to watch our recent session, Beyond the Brief, inside the winning proposals of the 2025 ULI Hines Student Competition. The full recording is available on the competition website, and it's a fantastic way to learn directly from the finalists about their ideas, process, and teamwork. Next. We also want to celebrate our past winners who have gone on to gain invaluable experience and visibility through the competition. Beyond the recognition, winners and finalists receive meaningful benefits like CV boosting project experience, new networks across the region, 1-year ULI student memberships, discounted access to the ULI Asia Pacific Summit, and the opportunity to showcase their work in a regional webinar. And for the winning team, the journey continues with a fully funded trip to the ULI Asia Pacific Summit, where they present their proposal and connect directly with senior industry leaders. Next. The ULI Hines Student Competition Asia Pacific would not be the success it is without the tireless dedication of our jury team and industry experts. Their guidance, rigor, and generosity shape the entire experience of our students. In 2026, we are honored to have both of our jury chairs, Chun-Fan On and Peter Hyland, returning to lead these efforts behind the scenes. And today, we are especially thrilled to have Peter joining us for our fireside chat. Peter, may I invite you to turn on your camera so we can see your bright and brilliant face and officially begin our conversation. So let's dive in. So I've heard you have chaired the competition for several years already. So what keeps you coming back?
Thanks, Rose, and hello everyone who might be online and who watches this after today. What keeps me coming back, Rose? It's a combination of things. One, at the outset, you in the introduction spoke about ULI and its mission, and ULI is truly a leader in the global mission about transformative impact and creating great communities and create urban developments. So the mission of ULI drives me implicitly, and it is a truly global movement. And then to see this happening through the eyes and sort of vision of the young university students, the people who are going to be leading the development and design, development and planning of these communities around the world, and to just see the opportunity to get these young people thinking, aspiring to take on the vision of the ULI and to help the pattern of our development around the world. And then to see the wonderful work that comes through over the last 3 years that Chun-Fan and I have had the honour of chairing the competition. It's just a wonderful blessing to be able to sort of see the ideas come through and these wonderful young people contributing some great ideas. And it gives me great faith in the future of our society globally, and to have these people interacting and working together. So it enthuses me, it empowers me, and it gives me great confidence about the future. In a world where there's so many challenges, it's wonderful to see positive things happening. And this whole ULI Hines competition is a positive opportunity, bringing young people together, connecting people around the region and globally, and giving them a chance to make a contribution. So it's a privilege, and I feel honoured to be able to be involved.
Thank you, Peter. Since it's such a great competition, we'd like to touch on a little bit about the team building and collaboration of the competition. So the brief actually asks teams to act as a master developer. So what kind of mindset or approach does that really require? Because a lot of our applicants, they only in one of the major like architects or their real estate property master. So what is your suggestion on that?
Yeah, a great question, Rose. And this is really an opportunity. And as you said, in terms of forming teams, we ask that they're formed from graduates or final year undergraduate students, because what this competition does is actually give these students who are nearly entering into their professional stage of their career, and during their courses, will have had some exposure. But as they transition from studying to be an architect or an urban planner or an urban designer or an urban economist, when they get into the real world and actually work on developments, they're suddenly going to find themselves sitting around a table or sharing screens, not just with architects, but they might be an architect talking to an urban planner, talking to an urban economist, talking to a real estate agent, and talking to a banker or a financier, because projects don't happen in isolation. Urban development just doesn't happen as a result of someone drawing a plan. The process of development starts from an idea, and then it's translating that idea into a built form outcome that is financially viable. So what the wonderful thing about this is that it starts to expose the students to this real world situation where you are going to be part of a team, and that you have to learn to understand that you have to work with a team to be able to deliver an outcome. So the whole concept of the Hines competition to act as a master developer is is to formulate an idea. You're given a site and you're then said, well, here's the blank canvas. Formulate a scheme that can activate and develop on this site. As you said at the outset, it can be visionary, but it's also got to be, and as you said, it's got to be shown to be financially viable. So I've got to learn that not everything, you can have vision, but then you have to measure your vision. You have to assess your vision. You might have to adjust your vision. You might have to sort of amend it according to financial aspects, to planning aspects. So it's a wonderful opportunity to understand the pressures that are on the developers. The concept of property development is sometimes seen as this very, all property developers are very successful and they just simply turn up and a wonderful project emerges and it's going to be successful. You and I both know, and many of the people listening on this or their lecturers, their teachers, property development is not an easy process. It requires a lot of judgment, a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis of risk. And this is what we're trying to make the students aware of, that when you're given the opportunity for a site, you then have to work the options, test them, challenge them, work in the statutory refinements. So it's a wonderful, and the mindset, you asked what mindsets does it take? It takes a mindset that is open to thinking, to being challenged, and not to be too fixed, and to be inquiring, a mindset that is always seeking to think, to challenge, recognising that you have deadlines to meet, recognising that you've got to deliver some outcomes. So what I love about it is it's a real world example, because these young people within a year or 2 years at the most are going to be finding themselves, they mightn't be the lead architect or the lead planner, but they'll probably be going to meetings where they'll be sitting around and watching what's happened. So it's a great opportunity for them to really be exposed to the real world situation. That's what I really like about it. And that's consistent with the vision of the ULI about helping to create wonderful, sustainable communities and developments.
100%. Like I also heard previous applicants telling me that um when they join a competition, it's such a first time to actually see this competition need holistic thinking. It's not only in one angle. And then the brief when they receive once they verify is actually very thick. So questions here is like teams may not be familiar with the whole city where the competition site is located, or things that they're not 100% like familiar with by their background. So what's your advice for like interpreting the site context or any background information like effectively from afar? Yeah.
Good. Another great question, Rose. And it's interesting, as you've shown in your introduction there, we've had last year the winners from a wonderful Indian university. Our site was in Hong Kong. Previously, we had winners from Waseda, the wonderful Japanese university, on sites in Japan, in Singapore. So the wonderful thing in the world today, as you can tell, those who are watching, I come from a generation when I started at university, there was no such thing as the internet. There was no such thing as online references. There was the only aerial photography we had was satellite images that were around. So these days, the information that's available. So when the contestants, when the teams find out what city their competition is being based in, these days there's so much information available about cities in terms of online, with government publications, with private sector. So it's getting this, once again, this inquiring mind, asking and thinking what's happening in this city or what's different. Almost everywhere in the world, there is some form of planning regulation which overlays where a development is happening. And the students, as you said, are provided a pretty comprehensive brief. So they get a fairly good background that gives them the framework to form up their thinking and their ideas. And then they can supplement that by sort of doing their research. And once again, this is a skill that these professionals, if they're going to be architects, because these days you really have to be global in your perspective, because in your careers, you are going to find yourself going from your home city to working in the cities that you've never been before. And you have to have this mindset to sort of say, well, I know what it's like in my home city. What are the principles and what are the impacts or influences in the city that I'm working in now? And it's about doing your research, looking at the history, looking at the current information, seeing what the economic profile is. And as I said, there's so much information these days on almost any city in the world. You can find background information. You can do your aerial searches. You can almost walk the streets without being there. Whereas 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, you couldn't do that. You had to actually be on the ground and walk the streets. Now you can go on your computer and drop yourself, I can drop myself into New York City and walk down Fifth Avenue without actually leaving where I am. So it gives them the opportunity to use all these research skills and this information that they've. And to be real, obviously, we've now got the influence of artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is informing and sort of guiding, and the bright people are looking how to use it to guide them. So I'm sure we're seeing that the use of artificial intelligence within the Hines competition is going to increase, as it is in all academic institutions around the world. You can't just turn your back on it. You've got to say, how do I use it best? So the students will have to use all of their skills, all of their thinking to say, well, where is this site located? What are the influences? Yeah, it's going to be an Asian city site, obviously, because we're operating in Asia. Yeah, what are the influences? What are the particular factors, the market factors? What's the real estate market? What's the regulation market? What's the economy? What's the climatic conditions? So all of these issues, but this is part of the wonderful challenge and the wonderful opportunity to get your thinking and to say, well, what does that then mean in terms of what I can deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like almost like a puzzle that you need to figure it out. Yeah, like
That's
such a
right.
challenge. And
It
since you
is.
talk about a lot of interesting things that you have been witnessed in the past couple of years, I wonder, can you also share a memorable idea or strategy from a past finalist that really stood out?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you sort of initially asked me this question, and I think every finalist has put forward a strategy. As I said, the first 2 years the competition was won by Waseda University out of Japan, and what they did was, once again, they were working on cities that they weren't located in not in in one instance, but they did their research, and they looked at what was an approach and an attitude. So I think back, this was when they were looking at a site in Singapore, and they really nailed it. I mean, I had the privilege of living in Singapore for 5 years, the wonderful city of Singapore, and it's interesting. We had some Singaporean universities enter that year as well, and wonderful entries. But the Waseda had this theme that was very Singaporean. They'd done their research about what was important to Singaporean residents and Singaporean citizens in terms of their lifestyle and what sort of environment they wanted. So they took their sort of the wonderful HDB Housing Development Board developments that have populated the wonderful community of Singapore, and they took all the nuances of it and put it into this site in Singapore, but gave it a new flavour as well, to give it a little slightly Japanese context to a Singaporean flavour. So it was wonderful, and I think it just showed. And then last year we had the wonderful work by Sept from India, on a site that was in Hong Kong, and once again they had done their research into Hong Kong and what was the sort of the nuances of Hong Kong, and then Hong Kong is very much obviously a dramatic city. It's a city of
Mhm.
great visions, sort of wonderful buildings and quite dramatic environments. So they reflected that in terms of their thinking at an appropriate scale, how to get that sort of nuance of something a little bit dramatic, a little bit impactful. So I think that what it showed me was that these students really did do their research and then took the information and put their own nuances to it. Give it a little bit of their own flavour
Mm.
um, within the confines of what's appropriate, what's realistic. So there's once again, no right or wrong answer, and it gives that opportunity for the artistic flair within the realms of financial viability, within the reins of regulatory constraints. But you can come up with some wonderful outcomes, and this is where
Mhm.
teams working together, the various members of the teams can come
Yeah.
up with this
I
out.
heard like successful team, they need to really do their work and try to put their heads into their city of their site and really know the people, the culture, and then provide something for the people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
because
it's like a very complex
it
like
is complex.
game. At the
It's
same time need to put yourself into it.
that's right. You can bring a slightly different nuance, and and
That's
sometimes you need to understand the market you're in, understand the society and the culture you're in, and respect that, and then say, well, within that, is there a capacity to test something? Is there a capacity to introduce something that might be appropriate? So it's a wonderful opportunity.
That is so cool. I also hear students asking me sometimes, like, how do jurors like weigh creativity against visibility and financial realism? What is the other percentage when you grade their schemes, or
Yeah, I
what's the
mean,
story behind?
yeah. Well, as they'll see in the brief, obviously we do um, have this context that there's got to be a rigor of financial realism and financial feasibility. So we do look for that. I mean, and this is where it's important that, and this is once again the reality of what these people are going to do throughout their professional careers. They're going to
Hmm.
be working on projects where, if they're the architect, if they're the creative urban designer, the architect, they're asked to sort of bring their sort of creative flair, but they'll be working or given some guidance as to from the urban economists, the real estate market people. This is what the market can afford in this location. This is the product that is in demand. So if I'm going into uh, a market where for example, if I'm going into a market, and I'll talk in US dollars, where the average of a two-bedroom, two-bathroom unit, if we're talking about a residential apartment, if the
Hmm.
market research says that in this market we're working in, the the average sale price for a two-bedroom, two-bathroom, let's say, for example, might be 1 million US dollars. Just pick a figure. If I say that I'm going to do a development where my product is going to be an average of 2.5 million US dollars, then you're probably not going to be a successful developer,
Mm.
because
Mm.
the market is there. Now, you might say, well, I think there's an opportunity to create a new market or to push the market a bit, because we're going to add something new in terms of our design.
Hmm.
So if you are proposing to go beyond, why are
Mm.
you doing that? Why do you think that? Have you got benchmarks for other examples within your region or elsewhere where you think it can go? So we want people to be creative, but if you're pushing the boundaries, then you've got to be able to give a rationale or a reason for it. And it's got to stand rigor, because on our
Mm.
jury, we have people who are very experienced in terms of urban developments, and they'll say that won't work, or you just can't create a market. The market's not there. So this is
Right.
why the team needs to have that rigor of wanting to create a wonderful product, but at a market, at a price that is the market can bear and can be successful. And once again, Rose, this comes back to the whole ethos of the Urban Land Institute. It's about
Right.
creating successful communities, economically viable, that have housing for a variety of people. So it's about creating a number of markets and mixing your markets. So it's a wonderful opportunity to. So we do look for creativity, but it's got to be balanced against realism, against market sensitivities, so it can stand the rigor. And when the finalists are asked to present, they are asked some hard questions about their financial feasibility and their analysis of their work.
So they need to make their case too if they not following.
If they're sort of pushing the envelope, if they're
Mm-hmm.
really saying we're going to create a new market in this location, then they've got to give some pretty good rigor and understanding as to why that's happening.
I see. Wow. Well answered. Thank you, Peter. And then another question, probably some help to mentorship and learning for university, like how can faculty or mentors best support teams during because it's a very short time, like a 3-week challenge. What is the best way you have heard so far? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the best way is to support them and to be that sounding board, to bring your experience, because most of the faculty members who will be with the students at the various universities have had a number of years of experience, so that they understand, development process. They understand it. So be there to support the students and to ask them the questions. Have you considered this? Have you looked at this? What have you considered? Make sure that they're working the process, keep them on track, make them aware of deadlines. So help them manage the project and be there to support, to be a sounding board, to ask some questions and to keep them on the track. Because they're used to making students get ready to deliver their assignments on time. So it's a bit like, it's another project that the students have got. So the role of the faculty mentors is to make them aware of their deadlines, because they've got to meet their deadline, set the program, make sure everyone's contributing, that everyone's sort of being responsible, and that they're working as a team together.
Yeah. Like going on to more understanding about the competition itself and how to craft a successful scheme, like how important it is for storytelling and visual communication in conveying a development vision, you think, for the competition?
Yeah, it is. And I think it'd be fair to say that the winners over the past, all the finalists over the past 3 years have all had a vision, that an overarching, and the success of an urban development is that to have a vision. Now, how complex that vision is, or how aspirational that vision is the challenge. But I think the vision emerges after that first period of interrogation. So they've got that 3-week period, and it's when they find out where the site is and when they get the brief, it's that first period of sort of saying, well, what are we dealing with? Get the research, get their information together, and then as they start to think with the people with the creative mind, the architects, the designers, the real estate economists, the financial analysts, people then start to say, well, what is the vision? What starts to emerge? And when people do their research, even if it's a city that they don't know, they'll start to see themes or emerging in terms of what is this location known for? Is there a particular history to it? Are there other developments happening around there? What are they, the successful ones? What have they been doing? So look at what's been successful. What's the history of it? What is the feeling that you get from looking at it? So the successful projects you can see the evolution. The students, the teams have formed a thinking, and then they've translated this thinking into the built form outcomes. They've allocated, whether it be a certain amount to housing, a certain amount of commercial developments, a certain amount to community uses, to the open space. What's the theme in terms of the greenery, the access to parkland? What's the access to social spaces, to community spaces? Is it a place of work? Is it a place of engagement, or is it a place of living? So looking at that, is it a place of community? What do we need to have to create a community? So it's got to have a vision, and then it's translating that vision into outcomes that are realistic and deliverable and make financial sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking about, you just talk about communities, and then which is like the key of this competition. How would you suggest students approach the balance between density, open space, and human scale design if they're designing from so above and the site is such a big scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately in the brief we give them guidance as to the what sort of land uses we are looking for within parameters. So they're given a guidance as to what sort of percentage of residential GFA. So obviously an urban development is based upon a certain amount of development capacity or gross floor area that it might be referred to. And then within that, we set some guidelines for how much is for residential, how much is community, how much is commercial, how much is open space. Then they can seek to vary, but they've got to seek to, once again, give validation or rationale for it. And then they have the opportunity to decide where they locate the various uses, how they integrate them, how they sort of decide what sort of different forms it takes, whether it's vertical form, horizontal form, what form of activities take place in there, if there's recreational activities. So it's about creating this sort of community. So we do give them some guidelines and ask them to sort of think about that. Then they can decide within those guidelines how they distribute it, what sort of, if there's a variation, why they might vary it, and what they're seeking to achieve out of it.
Sounds like this competition is more complex than other standard design competition that we see in our world today. And then, so let's say the student decide to join. Like, how can you see this competition actually shape the students' professional growth or influence their career path in like any possibility you see?
Well, as I said, I think it's a wonderful, as you said, there are a number of competitions out there that might purely be design competitions, whereas this is a competition that's not purely about design. It's the urban land competition about creating a successful urban development. So it's truly giving the students, in some cases, probably potentially their first exposure to the real world situation of urban development and property development. And they'll be dealing, as I said, whether they go and work in public sector or private sector, they'll be exposed and have to deal with this property development thing that happens. Because the world we live in, the government can develop a certain amount of property, but a lot of development happens through the private sector, through private developers around the world. So they've got to find sites, they've got to identify opportunities, they've got to then make sure that they can work, they've got to work out, is it going to be profitable? Will I go broke doing it, or will I make money so I can go on and do the next development? So this is a wonderful entree for these students into this world of property development, urban development, and it's wonderful. It's a challenging, but it's exciting. And the Hines, the promoter of this, the Hines itself, is a global developer of property. And it's a wonderful tribute to the founder of Hines, Jared Hines, who started the legacy of this competition, that it is about making sure that the young people coming through from our universities, graduating from our universities, understand how complex but how exciting this whole process of property development can be. And hopefully the students are involved in the competition. And one of the reasons it's been so successful in the United States, so successful in Europe, and now is building momentum in Asia, because it is exciting for these young students. They get exposed to it, and they get exposed to the Urban Land Institute. They get talking to urban developers. They get talking to consultants working on it. So it's a wonderful entree for them into the exciting world and open their eyes to. And when you see the young winners come to the the ULI conference and just standing on stage and meeting with successful developers, successful architects, you can just see their eyes and the opportunity for them to say, well, this is the world that I'm entering into. And hopefully they take it into their career and they think back in 20 years' time and say, I remember that Urban Land Institute conference that nearly tore me apart, but it provided me with a wonderful insight into this world that I've entered. So hopefully it gives them that challenge and at the end of the day, the feeling of achieving something and contributing to something.
Very cool. So let's say I'm a student and then I want to join this competition for the first time. What advice would you give me like joining for the first time? Since like is a really complex and great challenge. Like
Well, I don't want to make it sound too daunting, and I know you've had the previous students, and hopefully everyone can have a look at the other webinar that gives the students. So I don't want to make it sound too daunting. It's fun. They can have a lot of fun. I think is to enter into it, knowing that you're going to have a pretty intensive, 3-week period to sort of get your entry in. Make sure that you've got the right team members. Make sure that in your 3 to 5 that you have someone who can do the creative design, have someone who can do a bit of financial modelling, and then someone who might be able to straddle a few. So make sure you have the team members. Make sure they're all committed. Make sure that you have a mentor or a leader within your faculty who's there to support you, and then enter into it with there's no right or wrong answer. You're being judged, but we look at every entry and say, well done. Anyone who just submits, it's a great testament to you and to your university that you've just made the effort to submit. So we don't judge. We say everyone who submits is a winner, but then some people do go on to become finalists and someone ultimately wins. But everyone who participates is a winner because you're part of the ULI Hines. So you can sit back and proudly and say, I was part of that competition and I made some friends. I mean, I think that the people who you work with over this period will most likely become lifelong friends or colleagues that you'll look back and say, remember when we did that competition? And now we're going on and we're designing buildings and developing buildings around the world. So don't feel daunted, feel challenged, but feel excited. And I'm sure no one will judge you. You'll be a winner just to participate and submit.
100%. So finally, what single piece of advice would you give to the teams like if they want to win, like aiming to build a winning proposal?
Well, get your team organised as early as possible. Look at what roles everyone's going to play. Make sure you've got your time dedicated, and then make sure that you give that early time in the first week to really build your thinking and your strategy. So get your team right. Make sure you've got the right team members, the right skill set. Make sure that you're organised, that you've got that time, from the 4th of March, that you're ready to submit. Be diligent and get yourselves organised. So just be organised, be diligent.
Thank you, Peter, for such a wonderful conversation and for sharing your insights so generously. I hope everyone listening today feels inspired to register for the 2026 competition and maybe even encourage your school, your classmates, and your peers to get involved and help us spread the word and bring more bright minds into this experience. And now, like audience, please show some love, like hearts, thumbs up, and party poppers, clappings. If you found today's webinar helpful, and let's give a big virtual round of applause to our jury chair, Peter, for his time, wisdom, and continued support. And while those like reactions rolling in, I would like to invite our program manager, Kenil Chong, to share some exciting updates about the 2026 competition. Kenil, over to you.
Thanks, Rose. And thanks, Pete, for all the insights that you shared with us today. I'd just like to remind everyone that the registration period is ongoing and will run until the 4th of March. The competition period will begin on the 5th of March and run until the 26th. A reminder that all of the verifiers must submit their verifications by the 5th of March. And as Rose mentioned a while ago, the winner will be announced at the 2026 ULI Asia Pacific Summit. And for more information and the complete list of key dates, you can visit our website or email us at hinescompetition.ap@uli.org. Okay, thank you.